Alright, what's up, bro? So the title of this video is, you read the title. We're gonna be talking about dopamine, and basically, dopamine really changed my life. And I just wish that if I can explain this to certain people and they understand it in a certain way, and if they get the information, it changes their life too, right? So basically, we can get our dopamine sources from bad things and good things, and example of something bad that you can get your dopamine from is a certain bad habit, which is smoking weed, which is doing drugs, which is like um, doing like things that are not good for your health, like pornography, this and that, right? And basically, that's where you get dopamine from that. And these bad things are bad for two reasons. Number one is that it makes your dopamine so high to the point where you need that, right? Because if you think about it, nobody was like doing weed back then or doing drugs back then. They got their dopamine from hunting the food. You get what I'm trying to say? Like the hunters back then, the hunter gatherers back then, our ancestors, they got their adrenaline and they got their dopamine from working, from hunting. That's where they got their dopamine from. But nowadays we don't really get that much like high of adrenaline, high of dopamine we get in our days, right? We don't get that much. So we resort to certain things that give us that certain thing, because as human beings, it's in our nature to have that need of dopamine. We need that feeling, that rush, that fight or flight mode, right? But usually we use that fight or flight mode on things that aren't really valuable to us in life, right? Because you can either, one, use your time wisely, or two, use your time productively or waste your time, basically. So basically, it just comes down to you as a person, right? So basically, if you're doing a certain something, just ask yourself, are you doing something productive or are you doing something to waste time, right? You must have that accountability, and you must have that humility to say to yourself, okay, I am wasting time, but let me waste a few time here. But don't be saying that, oh, this is not a waste of time, but I'll just do it. Because once you cope and you say to yourself that it's not a waste of time, instead of being honest to yourself that you're wasting your time, you're just wasting your time because this is fun, I want to have some fun in life. And nothing wrong with that, but like, don't say to yourself that you're not wasting time when you know that you are, right? Because it's just gonna mess up your whole system. So next time, when you're trying to have fun again, you're saying, oh, yesterday I just wasted some time, I could have used that time more wisely, right? But basically, you can get dopamine from good things, and these good things is gonna have changes in your life. These things is gonna have like a steady pace in your dopamine, versus these bad habits is gonna go up, but it's gonna go all the way down. And if you listen to this right here, if you're watching the video, right, if you are willing to sacrifice you in a few hours, or you like in a few days, just for the pleasure of now, I'm sorry, but like, I don't use a bad insult, but please use your brain. Please use your brain, right? Because if you're willing to sacrifice your future self, right, like a few hours from now or a few days from now, if you're willing to sacrifice that future self of you for the pleasure of now, because this, I'm not pulling this thing out of my butt, bro. This is literally science, right? Once you do a habit that makes you so happy, right? It makes you so happy in the moment, it will inevitably drop your dopamine below your baseline, right? So what does that mean? You did this certain habit to make you happier, right? To make yourself feel better. But in the long run, what ended up happening is you ended up being less happy than when you first did that thing. And that just sucks, right? That just sucks. So basically, you want to have the steady pace of dopamine. And how do you have that steady pace of dopamine? Is if you do the good habits. What I mean by good habits is like just staring at a wall, bro. Like these things, it's hard to stare at a wall. It's hard to like, read. It's hard to like do the good habits. But you must tell yourself and remind yourself that it's gonna be worth it. Why? Because if your dopamine is so low, right? Because let's just say somebody wakes up, they wake up, they play video games, right? And then they watch porn, and then the next they watch a few shows, and then this and that, and then they eat a few junk food after. Their dopamine will be so low. So what does that mean? What does that indicate? That just indicates that they're gonna want to do the habits again because their dopamine is so low, right? But think about the person who just woke up, you know, what's it called? Got ready, you know, journaled, meditated, or whatever. He did his normal morning routine without getting like a those bursts of dopamine. He's living right now in a baseline versus the person who's down here, right? And that's just not a good way to live. You want to live you want to live your life happily. You want to live your life grateful. You want to be the type of person who just smiles looking outside because you know that life is great. You're not gonna have that feeling if you're burning your dopamine receptors, bro. If you're burning your dopamine receptors, you're not gonna have that feeling where you just look outside and you're just happy and you're grateful to be alive. You're not gonna have it if you keep burning your dopamine receptors. So that's just what I want to talk about, because understanding this, it will really change your life, because it helped me change mine, right? Because back then, you know, before, when we were kids, we just have fun without thinking about what we're doing. But now, as you grow older, once you start to understand this, you'll start to understand you better as a person. You know, you'll understand your future self better, and then you'll thank your past self, and overall you'll just become a better person. And yeah, so the actionable step of this video is to remove at least one habit, or try to remove at least one habit from your life that you know is giving you an unhealthy amount of dopamine and ruining your future self, right? At least one. And yes, that's pretty much enough for me. And improve your life. Be the best possible man you can be. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.